I gotta grab me one of those pens because the tablet I use uses a different pen. It's one of the annoying things about Wacom, guys, is they learned a long time ago that if they made it so that you had to buy a different pen for every kind of tablet they sell, they would make more money. So this is the pen you use in C515. That won't work here. Got to use these. Okay. Oh, and apparently that's upside down because all kinds of weird things are happening. Okay. So we are in Painter. You may have this annoying thing on the side, which I can't stand. If that happens, hit Options and where's it at? Uncheck the icon box. Yep, Options. So under, well, it's about, mine's about to be gone, hopefully. See, that'll remove that from the side. The brush we're going to use, this is the one that Painter always opens with, the Real 2B pencil. That is one of Painter's newer, fancier brushes that we don't want. So we're going to click on this, hopefully. Well, that's interesting. Apparently these mice don't click. It works with that. Okay, hang on, I got to try that again just to make sure I'm not crazy. That's weird. Alright, hang on a minute. If your pen's not doing what you expect it to do, under Wacom Tablet there are Wacom Tablet properties. So that should be click. I'm going to take the tip feel all the way down to soft. If you go to mapping, there's a thing that says Windows Ink. If you uncheck that, it'll make that little circle stop appearing whenever you click. And I like, they probably won't let me, but I like to change the front button here. I like to change it to a keystroke. It's going to let me, yours may not. I will make it Shift X. Hang on. Try that again. Keystroke. Actually, it's that's weird. Let's try that. See if it works. Nope. Nope. All right. Yeah, it is Shift X. The way you change colors over here is Shift X. I was trying to set that to my pen. That's advanced. We won't deal with that right now because whenever I try and do it, it won't let me. Instead of making it Shift X, it makes it a capital X, which is not going to work. So, okay, fine. These pens, tablets, guys, they come in different levels of quality. The one we're using is the very worst. This is a Graphire tablet, which is the cheapest tablet that Wacom sells. So, if you buy one for yourself, don't buy one of these. There we go. That made that work. It had the pressure sensitivity set so low that I couldn't get it to click. So you're going to change from Real 2B to just 2B. Okay? So that'll give you the 2B pencil. If you come here, if you go just B enter, it'll give you your brush stroke panel. Okay? Right now it says the dab is a circle, the stroke is single, the method is build up. We want to change that to cover. And it says flat cover, we want to change that to grainy soft cover. Like so. B enter. on your keyboard. It's not coming down. You don't have the, okay, there you go. It's interesting. Hang on, I'm going to come over there in 1 second. Let me finish what I've got here. Then you change dab profile from this slanty looking thing to just a low peak linear profile, like so. And then you can close that out when you're done. But before I do that, because I may have to do it again for people, I am going to come over and see what's going on with yours. I see two things wrong with yours right now. Pop up for a second. One of the things, if you don't have pallets hanging off the side like mine does right there, that means the pallets are missing. And that means somebody's put them away. And if that's the case, you go to Window, Arrange Pallets, Default. So now you at least have your pallets that are supposed to be. If you go re-enter, it should bring the brush in. Oh, there it goes. Control B. Okay, now I have to do B enter. Control B. If you don't get it from B enter, try Control B. That gives you what you want. Circular, single, cover. It's already set the cover. Grading soft cover. Someone's already got this set the way I like it. The app profile is wrong. Oh, you said you need to change the brush. Not real 2B, guys. It has to be 2B. Cover. Grading soft cover. There you go. And that's the brush you want to use. Okay. There is a video that shows you how to do this, a tutorial. It'll be on the website. Okay. Yeah. If you come over here and grab. Okay. Now you grab. Yeah. Scroll down. Okay. There's a circle on content. You know what pencils. So grab a hold of this thing over here. Pull that down to pencils. Pencils. Click on pencils. Now scroll up on the other side here to the top. Scroll the other way. There you go. 2B pencil. There you go. Yes. Yes, Deb. If you can help out, you're now assigned class assistant. That is all you get. Interesting.
There it is. Someone closed it separately.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. So that will be on your, there's a tutorial video that actually goes into this. It covers it in detail. Okay. So now that you've got that, the next thing we have to do before we start working is we have to set our units. So you're going to go to Edit, Preferences, General. Now before I do that, wait up 1 second. We're going to put a piece of paper. So if you go File, New, we have a standard canvas we'll use for this class. It is 6 inches by 6 inches by 300 ppi. ppi means pixels per inch. So we're going to change this to 6, and we're going to change this to 300, and hit OK. Now sometimes Painter changes your mind for you. It's quirky that way. So I'll always double check. I'll hit Canvas Resize and make sure that it's showing me the thing I want. Set it to inches. Yep, that's fine. Okay. Now here's the thing. When you start to draw with your brush, normally Painter doesn't give you this profile. This is funny. Somebody's already set the profile. Usually, or the way it looks. Usually the way it looks in Painter, what I expect yours to look like is going to be iconic. This is what your brushes probably look like. They probably look like bizarre little paint brushes. Yes? Paper is 6 inches by 6 inches by 300 ppi. It's going to say pixels to begin with. Painter loves pixels. You got to change that to inches. Okay? So this is what your brush will look like most of the time in Painter, which I find the most annoying representation of a brush known to man. So we change it. We go to Edit, Preferences, Interface, and under Iconic, we go down to Single Pixel. But then we unclick Iconic and click on Brush Ghost. Brush Ghost is important because it allows you to actually see the size of your brush on the screen. So that now, if I change the size of the brush to big, you'll see a big circle. And if I change the size of the brush to small, you'll see a little circle. And that's very helpful when you're drawing, to be able to see how big the brush actually is. Okay? And that's how you get it. You set it to, you set the iconic part of it. So once again, Edit, Preferences, Interface. You take your brush, you go to Iconic first, make sure you pick Single Pixel from the drop-down list, and then you go to Brush Ghost, which will uncheck Iconic. The last thing we're going to do here is we're going to change the units to inches. And normally I would do this before I made my canvas, because then it wouldn't say pixels, it would say inches. From now on, everything should say inches. And I will hit OK. And after that much effort, I am ready to work. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go, I got to find where she found it. I hate to admit it, but this is something that Akio found, that I can save this out. And I think it's called Export Workspace. Workspace. Export Workspace. I'm going to export this workspace to my desktop, and then I will upload it to our website. Kim's Painter Workspace. So in your Blackboard folder, you should be able to have that now, so that if you open this up and it's all crazy, you would just go to, I'll close this out. You would just go to Window, Workspace, Import Workspace. You would go to wherever you saved this on your computer and double click it, and it will switch workspaces. You'll see the little green thing working along. And once it's finished, you will have the 2B brush already selected. The units will already be set to inches. The brush will already be the way we like it. It'll all be done for you. Okay? But it was important for me to go through it, so in case you ever don't have that, you want to set it up. And like I said, it's covered in a video. All right, so the reason we set the brush to a cover build style is so that you can draw and erase at the same time. I'm going to bring in a new canvas because I threw mine away. See, it's already gone back to pixels. It's supposed to be inches because I changed the workspace. Painter is very stubborn about wanting that to be pixels. It's also very stubborn about the resolution. It always wants it 150. Deb, why does Painter always want 150 when 10 years ago or even 5 years ago the standard was 300?
Because it's going to screen.
That's right. It's all for web graphics now. They assume that you are drawing for web graphics, which is low resolution. We are not drawing for web graphics, so we're always at 300. If you want to maximize your little window here, so you have a whole canvas to work on, just click on the maximize button, and that'll float it in the middle. Okay? I'm going to set a drawing color. This is your color wheel in Painter. The triangle gives you all the shades of light and dark and saturation. The bottom left corner is black, the top left corner is white, and in here you have all kinds of shades of this particular blue. If you want to change the color, you grab the marker on the outside wheel and you move it around. And then you can once again get all the various shades of that color, and so on. Okay? It's a very nice way of doing color. But whatever color it's set to, just slam it all the way to the left side so you get gray. Then come down here. I usually come down to like 60, 70%. I don't like black. Black is too rough. It's too stark. Okay? I'm going to make my brush big enough that you guys can see it easily. So now when I draw, if I want to erase, I can do Shift X on my keyboard. I can either come over here and click on this, like so, or I can do Shift X. That's the keyboard shortcut. I use my little finger for Shift, my index finger for X. Once you shift colors to white, white is your automatic eraser. This allows you to work back and forth without using the eraser on the back side of your pen. Never use the eraser on the back side of your pen, guys. It's unprecise and nasty. Use this method instead. Okay?
Mine's not erasing.
Huh?
Mine's not erasing. The Shift X isn't working.
Okay, is the color changing in the corner? Yes, it is. So if it's not changing, Deb, you have your build-up method set to build up instead of cover. Build up won't work, so bring back your brush controls dialog box, Control B, and check what the method is. If it says build up, you have to change that to cover. Let me come take a look. Right here. You see it says, single you want. Yeah, they're right there. You're right. Make that cover, not build up cover, and then make it green inside. There you go. Oh, you're also using the pen tool, not the brush. Yes. You don't hold Shift X, then just do it once. Shift X again. And now it should be white. Okay. Yes. Got questions over? Huh? Okay. First off, you're using a brush, so that's good. Let me have a seat, find out what's wrong. Hopefully it's something obvious. Wow. First off, your tablet is crazy. It is crazy. So I'm first off, just got to make sure your tablet's okay. Wacom properties. Mapping, it should be set to pen mode. Please. Four proportions. Don't want to do this stuff. Solid. Now it doesn't do anything. I don't know what this is going to do, but this is going to do for first off, I'm going to change that icon for presentation. Edit preferences, interface, iconic, set it to single, back to brush strokes, inches. This is set to not cover. Bunch of problems. That could be. You already have 2 minutes here. Oh, what are these numbers?
very, very strange. They really didn't want me to change the properties. You were at least getting something before. You didn't want me thinking this all the way soft. For some reason. It's sensitivity. Double pair. They didn't want me to post the photos. Yeah, see, it's doing a really weird thing. Okay, we'll give it a time. Because that should be. Unfortunately, FIT equipment is very heavily used. And things get jammed. Really soft. No, it's cover and really soft cover. We hate those lights. We can't have those. So this is that's working. Yeah, something in a setting somewhere went crazy. Whatever it might be.
All right. So that's fun. We are up and running. We have played around a little bit on the canvas. Okay. Your first homework. Well, that's fun. Okay. My canvas just rotated 20 degrees, and I do not know why. If yours ever does that, see this rotation right here? Double click it, and it'll bring it back to normal. Getting around in Painter is the same as getting around in Photoshop or half a dozen other programs. Do you know what it means when I say pan? They use the same phrase in Rhino. To move the paper around, you hold down the space bar. To zoom in Painter, it is a keyboard shortcut, Control spacebar. Hold down Control and spacebar and then click. Where you click matters because where you click is where it's going to zoom around. Each time you click, it zooms back in. Okay? To zoom out in Painter, it's Control Alt spacebar. And same thing, it'll zoom out around where your mouse clicks. You can also do that up here. You have a zoom canvas thing where you can grab that and slide it like so. You also have icons here for zoom in and zoom out. Okay? But the keyboard shortcut is the best way to do it. Okay? And you can also pan here by dragging the little red rectangle you see up in there around. But for me, the most intuitive way is to spacebar to pan, Control spacebar to zoom in and out, or to zoom in, and then Control Alt space bar to zoom back out again. That's the navigation. So, as far as our brush is concerned, we have a few attributes at the top here. This is your size. Slide it to the right, gets bigger. Slide it to the left, it gets smaller. Please put this in your notes. The smallest brush I ever want you to use in Painter is 1.6. Smallest. Okay? The biggest brush I ever want you to use is about 35. You can disobey these if you want, but I don't recommend it. If you go smaller than 1.6, remember everything you draw here is a lot smaller in real life than it looks. You are zoomed way in. So what looks like it's, if I zoom in here and I do a 1.6 line, I set my brush here to 1.6. And I zoom in to where that feels like a line I can actually see. Wow, I really hate these tablets a lot. That looks like, okay, a pretty fine pencil line. But actual size is about 33% over here. Those lines don't even show. All right? So you going tinier than a 1.6 is just, when it prints out, it's going to pixelate. It's going to fall apart. It's too tiny. And bigger than 35 is going to tax the operating system of your computer. Painter is still keeping track of every big brush stroke across this digital canvas, and making great big brushes just slows things down, uses up memory. Okay? The next thing over you're going to see, I'll bring my brush back up so you can see what I'm doing, is opacity. If you make this thing 100% opaque, it's 100% opaque. If I go back to the white, it'll erase 100%. If I go back to the gray, it'll draw 100%. Okay? But you do have transparency. Let's say I'm going to take a color now. If I set this down to 17%, that's about as transparent as you should ever go. 16 to 17%. You can see that I can see through that stroke, right? And if I keep drawing in the same place, it'll get more and more opaque as I draw in the same place. That feels very much like a pencil. If you press lightly and go over one little stroke, it's thin and transparent. If you press down harder and you draw in the same place, it gets darker. Okay? I find the best transparency for drawing to be around 50%. Maybe a little higher, maybe 60. To me, that's a nice natural feeling drawing sensitivity. Okay? So the next thing over you have is the grain. Now some of you may not see grain. Does anybody not see grain at the top of there? Okay? If you don't see grain, 2B brush is such an old brush that sometimes Painter doesn't recognize it. This is like from 1990, this brush. So to get it to see it, pick any other brush. I usually go back and pick Real 2B. And then I come back again and I pick 2B. And it'll usually be right here, recent brushes. When I pick 2B again, grain should show back up. Grain is how much of your paper is showing through your brush stroke. If I set the grain at 100%, then I'm going to get see the grain of that paper? You're going to really see the grain of the paper. Grain is very nice when you're trying to sketch. It's very nice when you're trying to get blending between your strokes. Okay? I never go to 100% on the grain. Normally I put my grain, if I'm sketching and drawing, at about 80, 70, 80. I find that to be a very natural looking grain. What kind of paper you use is up to you. There are different papers to choose under here. For sketching, I use the standard paper. For more detailed work, I use one of the other papers, but we'll talk about that a different day. We don't want to cover everything today. But just understand that grain is how much of your paper's texture will show through. If I take the grain all the way out, I have a pen. It stops being a pencil, and it becomes a pen. It's like a marker, because no paper interacts with it anymore. If I take it to 0 on the grain and 100% on opacity, and I take the color to black, I basically have a magic marker. Okay? So by changing those attributes, you can dramatically change how your tool works. Okay? The standard, once again, for drawing in our class, for a drawing size brush, I usually start at about 3.8. Opacity, I usually start around 60. Grain, I'm usually around 80. 70, 80. I never pay attention to resaturation. It's not something we have to deal with. Selection tools. The simple selection tools I'm going to cover today are the window selection, like you have in Rhino. It's right here. Rectangular selection. If you click on that, you can drag a little rectangle any shape you want. And then if you want, you can copy that thing. Or if you want to erase your canvas, which is what we're going to do today, just Control X. And that will erase that area. If you want to control your whole, if you want to select your whole canvas, this is a Windows universal shortcut, Control A. If you Control A, then Control X, you have a clean piece of paper. Powerful and dangerous at the same time. We have a couple of homework things we're going to do with this week. First thing I want you to figure out how to do is how to get comfortable drawing with this silly stylus. The hardest thing to get used to is the fact that you can't look where you're drawing. Your eyes are looking at the screen, your hand is down here doing its own crazy nonsense. That is very hard to get used to. There is a solution that's very expensive. It's called a Cintiq tablet. Cintiq tablets are Wacom tablets that function as your monitor, and you actually draw right on the monitor, and it's a Wacom tablet. Those start, for a small one, they start at about $800. For a nice one, they're about $2,500. Okay? I have one. I actually prefer the tablet. I've been using a tablet for so many years that it's actually easier for me to look at the screen and draw down here. So, to get used to that, we're going to do a journal. Every week I want you to write. Okay? I want you to write about a paragraph. Okay? The way we're going to do that to make it easy for you is we're going to bring in a grid. If you go to Canvas, you have a virtual grid. We're going to click on Show Virtual Grid, and it will show up. Okay? That grid is way too tiny to be useful to us, but there it is. To make it useful to us, we're going to go in here again, Canvas again, Virtual Grid again. We're going to hit Virtual Grid Options. Okay? We are going to change this to spacing we can use. Okay? Right now, it's got grid type vertical lines. We're going to change that to horizontal lines. And we're going to change the unit here to inches. Okay? We're going to change that to 0.3 inches. Shouldn't matter what you set the vertical spacing to, but set it to 0.3. I mean, the horizontal shouldn't matter. And then hit OK. That gives you great big spaces. Okay? That might be too big to write on. You choose if you want it smaller. Canvas, virtual grid, and you would make it. And it keeps wanting to go back to pixels. Painter loves pixels. Go back to 0.2, 0.2. Change it back to, it also loves the vertical lines. Got to change it back to horizontal. And hit OK. There you go. Now you got a grid you can draw with. The last thing you're going to do, guys, is you're going to go back there one more time. Virtual grid, an unchecked snap to virtual grid. Akio has taught you about snaps in Rhino, right? It's a constraint. If you have snap to grid put on here, every time you try and draw, your brush is going to try and stick to a grid line. We don't want that. Okay? So now you have lines. Set up your brush to a nice opacity of gray. Like I said, I usually like something in the vicinity of 60, 70. Change the other color to white. So switch over to the other color. Slide that up to white so that you have gray and white. And that shortcut again is Shift plus X. Okay? So your homework, part of your homework, is going to be to set up a page like this and write a little journal entry. You know, whatever you want to put in there, you know. I don't care about the content. I really don't care what you write. The truth is, I won't even look at these. I won't check them. I won't ask to see them. So you don't have to do them, right? Since it'll never be checked, and no one's going to swoop down and go, you get an F for not doing it, this is something you can blow off completely, isn't it? Why do you think I'm having you do it? Because I've taught people to use stylus at Stellar for years, and the problem we had was trying to find a way to coordinate the hand and the eye. This is the best way. When your handwriting looks like your handwriting, you can draw. That's very intuitive. You know when your handwriting looks like your handwriting. So you keep practicing this every single day until your handwriting looks like your handwriting. Brings us to an important point in today's class. How many of you own Painter? One.
Yeah, I think I have three, but.
How much did you pay for it? You got a student version? $200, something like that. I think it's about $200 student discount. Was there a free download available? Yeah. There probably is a trial. It's probably 30 days. It's probably fully functional, which means you can probably save out of it. Maybe not. Some software companies, if it was an Adobe product, forget you me. You would never be able to save it. Autodesk either. They go, yeah, you can have a trial version. You bet. It's even open-ended in Autodesk. You can have it forever. You just can't save anything. Which is like, thanks for nothing. Okay? I believe that the Painter trial is fully functional. But it lasts for 30 days and it dies.
This is so much work in the setting, and then what do you say?
The color, it's the opacity. Yeah. Okay. It's your pressure sensitivity. Go to wavefront properties.
Okay, go down to the Windows button, Windows go to all programs. Look for Wacom, top left. The little Wacom tablet properties. Okay, under tip field, slide it all the way to soft. With these cheap tablets, guys, make them soft. And then you have to say anything, just click X. Now try it. Okay? It was making you press too hard. On a nice tablet, I recommend an Intuos. I recommend Intuos 3, if you can find them, on eBay. Because they're a really good tablet, they last forever. And I think the going price on eBay for one new in the box, how they have these new in the box, I don't know. They're from like 1994. But apparently there's still some in boxes. They're like $100 to $150. New in the box. Used, cheapest one I've got is $50. Complete with the stylus and a puck. A puck is a mouse. These have mice that work with them as well. So somewhere between $50 and $150, you can pick them up on eBay. I'll write that on here. Oh, I really hate this thing. There is some kind of a feature here that I can touch and grab. Okay. Yeah, I'm grabbing something and I'm moving things around. I hate that on Wacom tablets also. So, once again, back into my Wacom. Wacom tablet properties. I'm going to go to my Intuos 5 Touch. Oh, that's why it's got touch. Okay, I'm going to go here and functions. Touch. Off. How do I get it to go off? Settings, clicks, disabled, modifier, disabled, modifier, disabled, modifier, disabled, pan scroll, disabled. And touch on off is the top button here. Touch off. Okay. There. Now it's just a tablet. Thank you very much. It's going to make my life a lot easier. I hate it whenever they try and make these things fancy. Okay. So, actually it's an Intuos 5. This is actually a fairly expensive tablet. It just works lousy. Yeah. This is about a $300 tablet. Not for nothing. The one I recommend online is an Intuos 3. Okay. The other homework, that's the easy homework. The other homework, and we've only got 10 minutes, but this is all in a video. There's a video for setup, there's a video for laying out a grid, there's a video for tracing, which is the next project. I'm going to bring in an image to trace. Okay. You guys, I want you to use the plant drawing you did earlier in the semester. Remember you had to draw from a plant? I want you to scan that and bring it into Painter. If you don't want to do that, you can use my frog. It's right here. He's an image, so you got to open him up. And okay, let's right click on this thing. Fine. Use a mouse. Save image as, put it on the desktop, frog. Okay. Then you can bring that into Painter. Painter has an import mode. Don't use it. It's not worth it. Open the file. I've already made it a good size to work on, so you can just keep it the way it is. You don't need the grid anymore. To turn off the grid, go to Canvas, Virtual Grid, hide Virtual Grid. It's gone. Okay? So unfortunately, you guys don't have the frog. How can I get you the frog? I know I can get you the frog. I'll get you all the frog right now. Come on. Oh, this really is pitiful for working your computer. Works okay in Painter, but nowhere else. 139, 102, 101. Content, traditional, build content, content folder. Use a mouse, Kim. 8. Open the folder. Build image. Kim's Frog. Browse my computer. Desktop. Painter Frog. Submit. Okay, guys, you all now have the frog on Blackboard. It's in folder week 8. Okay, so the method for drawing is actually going to require us to use layers. Layers in Painter work very much like layers in Rhino, except for they're more powerful. Layers in Rhino are really an organizational tool. They allow you to organize your model, your drawing, into different layers so you can hide and look at different things. Painter actually lets you use layers to keep building up on top of something, so it can be very, very powerful. We're going to make a tracing. To make a tracing, we're going to create a tracing paper. Now, actually, if you read your Painter Wow book, it'll tell you how to get a piece of tracing paper automatically. It's not worth it. I'm going to teach you to make tracing paper. It's actually very easy. Going to create a new layer. To create a new layer, you're going to come here, and down at the bottom, you have a thing that says New Layer, right there. Click on New Layer. There you go. The order you see them here is really important, guys. The farther down they are, they're underneath, which means layer 1 is on top of the canvas. They try and show you a little image of what's on there. You can see that's kind of a little frog. Whereas layer number 1 just has a checkerboard on it, which means it has nothing on it right now. We're going to make it white. To make it white, we're going to Control A to select everything, the whole crazy canvas. And then we're going to Paint Bucket. Paint Bucket is 2 tools down from the brush tool. It's right here. We're going to hit Paint Bucket. And then we're going to change our color to white. You can do that by touching a little arrow here in the corner or by using trusty Shift-X. Once it's white, you're going to come over the top anywhere you want and you're going to click. And it gives you flowers. That is so cool. That is amazing. Undo if that happened to you. Up here under Fill, it's going to give you choices. And this says Source Image. Scroll down to Current Color. It should be the top on the list. And then click again. And there you go. Frog disappears. If your drawing is doing that to you, please, I've forgotten your name. I want to call you Miriam. You're not Miriam. How many names are you? Marianne. Thank you. Just because I'm full. Oh, you got to go straight in. Yeah, you just double click that. You touch the thing and it went crazy on you. This right here, the very top again. Push that. It should kill the. It should make it so you can't touch and scroll. Hopefully that works. Okay, frog is still there, he's just hidden. He's hidden by an opaque layer. Another sheet of paper. It's like a sheet of white paper covering him up. We need to turn that into tracing paper. First thing I want to do is get rid of the selection. See the marching ants around the corner here? We want to get rid of those. To get rid of the marching ants, it's Control D. Control D is Select None. Control D got rid of it. Okay, so Control D
deselects everything. All right? So that gets rid of them. To turn this into tracing paper, you're going to come up here. You see this thing that says 100%? That's the opacity of your paper, of your layer. You're going to scoot that down to about 50%. And voila, there's your frog. Okay? You now have tracing paper. Now, if you want to see the frog less, then you scoot the opacity back up. Mariana, you want to make sure you do that to the layer and not the canvas. Do you have a frog on there? No? Okay. I'm looking for a frog. If you move the opacity up a little more, you'll see less of the frog. I like it at around 80%. More or less, 70, 80. That's about where I like my tracing paper. Now, so you can see the difference as I'm drawing, and I recommend you do this at home, I'm going to draw in blue. You can draw in whatever you like. Okay? I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to trace my frog. My brush is a little fat for the frog, so I'll drop down to about 2.7. That's actually a really skinny brush. Oh, I dropped it to 2.4, that's why. Yeah, my Intuos 3 is a fourth the money and a much better tablet. I mean, you get the idea. I'm tracing my frog. Now, what's important to do every once in a while is to make your tracing paper opaque. So that you can actually see your drawing. Because when you're tracing, the drawing underneath looks pretty good, it looks pretty clean, and it's cheating for you. You're going, wow, I'm really good at this. I am a tracing monster. I drew this even better than the last guy who drew it, which in this case was me. But when you come over here and you take the opacity back up to 100%, bottom frog disappears, and you really see what your line quality is. So now I can go back in with the white color, clean up my drawing. I can zoom in if I want to. Guys, I would never draw over 200% scale unless you're doing little teeny stones. Then you can go up to 300, but I see students drawing 600%. And I'm like, what do you think is going to happen when you print that? 600%, everything you're drawing is going to just disappear. So I can come in here now, and I can get really quite clean if I want to spend the time on it. And I keep my hand on that Shift X all the time. At home, when you have your own tablet and stuff, set it to the keyboard, the pen button. This particular model doesn't seem to want to let me do that. The ones in C515 will, because they're Intuos 3s. Right, and then I can go back to transparent again. and I can see what I'm doing, right? So that's how you trace. You go back and forth. Now, when I'm all done, I don't want a blue drawing. Well, maybe I do, but if I don't, I come in here to Effects, Tonal Control, Adjust Colors. Has 3 sliders: hue, saturation, and value. Hue is which color it is. I can make him a pink frog. I can make him a green frog, just by sliding this around. Okay? Value is how dark it is. I can make it a very light frog. I can make it a very dark frog. Okay? Saturation is the one we want. If I slide saturation all the way to the left, he becomes gray. And if the gray isn't dark enough for me, I can nudge down the value over here until it is, and hit OK. So that's how you take your final tracing and go back into grayscale with it. Does that make sense? So you have 2 things to do with your homework. One of them is to write a paragraph, do it as many times as you can, or are willing to, until your handwriting looks like yours, and do a tracing either of the frog, or what's better is to do it from your nature study drawing, because that's your hand over your hand. Right now your hand is over my hand, which is kind of artificial. But if you're tracing your own handwork, it's like doing your handwriting, you will recognize your own hand. Okay, we got 3 or 4 minutes left. I need to see your drawings for your rings, because Keo's going to need those. Fine. Yes. Okay, he should be on the first layer already. Turn off that layer. Turn the little eye off. If you click on the eye, that layer goes off. So the top one, click the eye. See how it didn't change anything? He's on the ground already. So just put that eye back on. Control A to select everything. Hit white color after. So shift that. Hit button. Just 2 down from the refresh. Click in here. Just how you do it. Just shift it. And you can trace it. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's going to transform. That's fine. If you make that 100% opaque on that layer, the frog will disappear completely. Yes? That's right, because the bottom one won't. The bottom's canvas. Canvas you can't change. Okay, you can't pick it up and make a layer. You're not going to do that today. So just, yeah, you can only play with the top layer, which is important. Make sure you're drawing on the top layer. Make sure your tracing is on the top layer. In Rhino, the layer that is active is the one you are drawing on. I can't tell you how many times when I was learning how to do this that I was doing an important project that I had like 40 hours to do. And I had the wrong layer selected and I kept drawing on it. And the problem was a lot of stuff on that layer I didn't want. And now I was stuck because a lot of stuff I didn't. And you'll often build these drawings layers deep. Always know what layer you're on. For your tracing, you want to draw on the tracing layer. This is good. What do you want to do? Okay, you just get, what's interesting is you have, yeah, that's all on this piece of paper. None of that is taken on here. Yep. Oh, well, you traced the whole thing. That's why. So show me your rings, guys. Come on up. We only got a minute. Looks good. Yeah, it's going to be a fast crit because we have no time. Okay, yeah, I like the way you're playing with the contrast. What are the holes? Are they holes? Are they recessed areas? Are they? They're negative spaces. Okay. This one. Okay. Mm-hmm. This one.
Okay.
I'm also thinking about what's coming next at you. Akio is going to make you draft these.
Okay.
So I'm not going to pick something that's going to take you forever and a day to draft. It's going to be really hard to draft, but I like that one. But I can't give you something that hard to draft. You go insane. Just absolutely insane. So I'm going to pick this one. Okay?
Can you see this?
Very nice. Yeah. Good. In a half dark room. I'll have to look at it in bright light sometime to give you an actual assessment, but from what I can see, okay. I have no front views. That's okay. We don't have time to worry about it. Okay. Okay. A little dark, looking pretty good. A little too white. Huh? Put your tablets away and bring back your pen for your ID. This one? Okay. Okay. So yeah.
So do we need to upload whatever we trace?
Yes, I will have a folder for you to upload.